nagsimula ang mga meeting sa mga rehiyon at diskurso ng mga taong gobyerno at ng mamamayan. Noong nakaraang taon ay naglunsad po ng Daguao Open Government Participatory Town Hall Meetings, kung saan mas pinayaman ang ng pamahalaan ang pakikipagdialogo sa mga mamamayan. So, kaya po ang atin pong magiging talakayan ngayong hapon ay medyo iba sa nakagawian natin dati. Kasi meron po tayong social distancing na kailangan i-observe. Ang ating pong talakayan ngayon ay mangyayari online. At ngayon po ay live ang ating Daguao, sabay-sabay, hindi lang sa Zoom, kundi sa mga Facebook pages ng RTBM Malacanang, Philippine Open Government Partnership, Right to Know Right Now Coalition, DBM, DILG Philippines, DILG Support for Local Governance Program, PCOO, Government of the Philippines, FOI Philippines, at Caucus of Development NGOs. Ngayon, ano po ang ating tututukan? Nitong Lunes, nagbukas ang mga klase. Kaya ang ating unang episode ay nakatutok sa edukasyon ng ating mga kabataan. Habang may banta pa ang coronavirus, malaki namang hamon ang kinakaharap natin ngayon, mga estudyante, guro at magulang dahil sa medyo bagong sistema ng pag-aaral. Nagbukas po nitong October 5 ang mga klase at may ilan-ilan paling katarungan at katanungan at mga concerns na ating nakalap. Bibigyan kasagutan po natin ngayon sa Daguao Virtual Town Hall Meetings ang mga issue ito kasama ang ating mga panelists mula sa Department of Education, pati na rin mga eksperto mula sa United Nations Children's Fund at ENET Philippines. Pag-uusapan po natin kung paano ba ipinatutupad ang sinasabing distance and blended learning approaches as a modality to deliver basic education. Paano nga ba natin tinutugunan ang hamon na dulot ng COVID-19 pandemic sa edukasyon? Paanong paraan tayo pwedeng magtagumpay kung sama-sama nating haharapin itong mga isyong ito. So kasama po natin ngayon ang ating mga guests mula sa iba't ibang ahensya. So bago po ang lahat, welcome po natin ang isang napakahusay na government career service personnel, ang Undersecretary for Local Government ng Department of the Interior and Local Government, si Yusek Maribel Sacendoncillo para magbigay ng paunang salita. Ms. Maribel, welcome. Medyo na-delay yata ang pagpasok sa ating online session ni Ms. Maribel, pero mamaya makakasama natin siya. Okay, bago po tayo magpatuloy sa ating mga panelists, magre-reminder lang po kami sa ilang ating house rules. Sa mga participants na nasa Zoom, kung maaari po i-off o i-mute ang inyong microphone para hindi po maantala ang diskusyon ng ating mga speakers. Sa mga katanungan ninyo, meron po tayo mamayang open forum kung saan pwede kayong magdiretso ng tanong sa isang speaker o sa lahat ng panelists. Mapagbibigyan din po natin ang ilang participants na magtanong ng live. Ibig sabihin, you will be unmuted and featured on screen during the open forum. Antayin po na lang nating tawagin ang inyong pangalan at i-recognize bago ilahad ang inyong katanungan. Sa mga hindi po makapagtatanong ng live na nasa Zoom, pwede po kayong magsumite ng inyong mga katanungan sa ating chat box. Para naman sa ating viewers na nakatutok sa Facebook live stream, pwede po kayong mag-iwan ng inyong katanungan sa comment section at babasahin po namin ang mga yan. Maaari din po kayong magsumite ng tanong anonymously. Gamitin lang po ang ating Slido link na naka-flash sa ating screen. Alright, tulad po ng nabanggit ko kanina, meron tayong powerhouse cast ng mga speakers. Ang unang episode ng Daguao 2020 Virtual Open Government Town Hall Meetings ay nakatutok sa usaping edukasyon. Para ipagpatuloy ang ating programa, tingnan po natin Lay of Land Concerns. Mula sa Department of Education, si Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio. upang magbigay ng napapanahong impormasyon tungkol sa ating paghahanda at iba't ibang inisyatiba para masiguro na tuloy pa rin ang ating pag-aaral ng mahusay ng mga kabataan natin. Makakasama rin natin si UNICEF Chief of Education, E.C. Payne Gold. Pati na rin si May Rendon Cinco mula sa INET Philippines at Social Watch Philippines Educational Cluster. Sama-sama, bigyang linaw po natin ang mga katanungan natin at concerns tungkol sa edukasyon. Una po natin pakinggan ang mga updates sa presentation galing sa DepEd, si Yusek Diosdado Dads San Antonio, kasalukuyang Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction ng DepEd. So, Yusek Dads, ready na ba tayo?
Magandang hapon po. Maraming salamat, Ma'am Balu, at magandang hapon po sa ating mga taga-antabay. Tayo po ay naatasang makibahagi ng mga ginagawa sa kagawaran ng edukasyon at bilang Undersecretary for Curriculum and Instruction, talaga pong nakataya tayo sa gitna ng laban na ito na subukin ang mga batang Pilipino ay mabigyan ng pagkakataon na tuloy-tuloy ding matututo. Ano po ang mga initiatives natin and plans to address the challenge? We have developed the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan in the time of COVID-19. This is the response of the Department of Education to strengthen the resilience of Philippine education systems for equitable and sustainable development. So, nakaano po tayo, inaasahan nating tuloy-tuloy na isusulong yung pivot to quality, sulong edukalidad, which will allow us to focus on equity, inclusion, and quality. We are also strengthening leadership of the school principals, division office superintendents, and regional directors, and even at the level of the central office. And of course, we're so fortunate that we are ably headed by a very effective leader, very inspiring leader who has all the energy. She outlasts all of us during meetings, kahit po late sa gabi nung mga nag-uusap kami tungkol sa mga paghahanda. We do a lot of coordination with stakeholders. Of course, here today is Mr. EC, and then INET is also here. They're engaged in our education forum, the tool that we have used to develop the learning continuity plan. And then we will advocate accelerated positive change in teaching and learning. Every solution has its own challenge, notably in terms of equity. And so we offer different distance learning delivery modalities, knowing that Filipinos do not have access to the same set of learning resources. For those who have access to the internet and who have gadgets, they can do online distance learning. And in most high-income countries, this is normally the choice because they have very good internet facilities, and many of the families are able to afford to provide their children the gadgets. For the low-income countries, generally, modular distance learning or the printed ones, or even the offline mode, digital din pero walang internet, or radio and TV-based instruction yung ginagamit. Of course, there's the so-called digital divide. There is limited access to basic household services such as electricity, lack of technology infrastructure, and low levels of digital literacy among students, parents, and teachers. Ang mga readiness components po ng DepEd, mayroon tayong SIAM, enrollment, curriculum, blended distance learning modalities, learning resources, assessment, teacher training, resource mobilization, health standards in teachers and personnel welfare, and regional contextualization. As of today, ang enrollment po natin ay 89.37% of previous year's enrollment, 24.819 million. Sa public school po ay 100% nang nakabalik yung mga bata. We have 22.587 million learners enrolled in the schools as of 8 o'clock today. But I would like to inform you that there have been transferees from private schools that are now counted in our 100%. About 398,000 of them are from the private schools. Sa private schools naman po, 50.54% pa lamang ang bumabalik, 2.17 million. Sa ating alternative learning system, we have 397,600 60 learners, equivalent to 53.66% of previous year's enrollment. Ano po yung mga paghahanda? Una po, syempre, because 59% of our learners would want to do the printed modular distance learning, ang pinaghandaan po natin ay itong mga modules na ito. Yung mga datos po namin sa printing ng Kinder to Grade 10 modules, for the first quarter po ito, ang target natin ay 1,252,801 modules sa first quarter. Ang nagawa na po, ang na-print na para sa first quarter, meaning hanggang sa November, ay 868,353,851 printed SLMs, which is equivalent to 69.35% of what we hope to produce. For grades 11 and 12, 68,825,800 pieces of printed modules, and 52 million na po, almost 53 million ang na-produce, 76.99%. Sa training of the learning facilitators po, in terms of teachers, ang target natin ay 777,165 teachers. Ang na-train na po ay 760,952 fellow teachers, equivalent to 97.90%. At sa mga parents naman po, we were able to train 15,296,000. This is our target, 15,296,765. Ang na-train po natin ay 12,665,589, equivalent to 82.79%. Ito po is as of October 4, ang mga datos ko pong binabahagi sa inyo. In terms of health and safety protocols, ang mga SDOs po natin, 221 of our SDA, Schools Division Offices, have issued the contextualized division memoranda on health and safety protocols. And in terms of schools, 35,863 schools na po ang nag-i-implement ng mga protocols na ito on health and safety of everybody. Teachers, fellow teachers, school officials, and the kids, kung magkakaroon po ng limited face-to-face in the future. Not yet now, kasi po hindi naman tayo pinapayagang magkaroon ng face-to-face. Pero kung naghahanda na rin tayo, ano po yung mga nakuha nating best practices during the school opening? They forged stronger partnerships. Ito po yung very common with LGUs, NGAs, national government agencies, non-government organizations, private institutions in the operationalization of the basic education learning continuity plan of the regions. So talaga po ang lakas ng partnership, talaga pong pinadama sa atin ng mga iba-ibang sektor, particularly the local government leaders, yung suporta po. There was also intensive information dissemination to partners and stakeholders, including parents and guardians. We also increased the involvement of LGUs in ensuring health and safety of teachers and parents in the preparation and distribution of the modules. We also do continuous monitoring of the regional offices of the activities in the field. And we also have the integrated central office activities to localize kick-off activities to maintain the advocacy of the department this school year. And we included psychosocial and mental health awareness for teachers, parents, and learners in region-wide activities. Yun po namang mga challenges sa school opening. Of course, we know that there's an increasing COVID-19 positive cases. There are travel restrictions due to localized community lockdowns, peace in order, geographic locations of schools, households of learners, among others. We also have limited budget for production of learning materials. We also have internet connectivity, which is unstable or no access at all at some households in areas. And we said this should not actually be a big challenge because we will immediately be very flexible. We can resort to the digital modular approach if the internet will be a problem. And then weather disturbances, hesitance of parents to enroll their children in school for some reasons na hindi pa natin po masyadong na-process, but ang sabi ay natatakot ay hindi naman lalabas yung mga bata. In terms of budget, for the 2021 National Expenditure Program, DepEd has 605.74 billion, which is 9.54 higher than the agency's 552.99 billion 2020 GAA budget. And you can see on the slide that capital outlay is 36 billion. MOE is 98.28 billion, which has been increased. Yung pong capital outlay medyo bumaba ng kaunti, but the significant increase is the personnel services. Ito po dahil sa mandated salary adjustments ng mga teachers. Ang susunod pong slide is about the flexible learning options or alternative delivery modalities or modes and alternative learning system, and at the same time education in emergencies. We say that yes, flexible learning options will provide a menu of possible learning interventions and pathways that are responsive to the needs, context, circumstances, and diversity of learners. These options are flexible as they intend to be timely in addressing the issues brought about by conflict, poverty, and disasters. And I already mentioned we have existing programs in Alternative Learning System, ADM, and AIE. And then the 15.1B increase in the flexible learning options allocated for our 2021 budget is to cover the budget requirements of the alternative learning modalities, including printing and delivery of self-learning modules. This is in addition to the 105 million allocation for ALS and ADMs. And what else have we done so that we can fund the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan? We have recalibrated the DepEd budget through alignment and modification of our programs, activities, and projects. So within DepEd for 2020, we have to really sit down again and again to identify the projects and programs that will have to be shelved so that we can proceed with the implementation of the Learning Continuity Plan. We also use available balance of the school MOOE. We know that many schools were able to save in terms of operational expenses because of the lockdown, so they were allowed to rechannel the budget to the needs in terms of implementing LCP. We also use the Special Education Fund for the BE LCP in partnership with LGUs. We have enhanced partnerships with development partners and access to official development assistance. And we have also enhanced the Brigada Eskwela so that we can maximize private sector contributions. In terms of Q1 budget, we have downloaded 10 billion worth of funds from the central office. So for Q1, in terms of our SLMs, our total budget from MOE, from SEF, from Brigada Eskwela is 14.5 billion pesos po. And as I've said, we have strengthened external partnerships for basic education. We have private partners, corporations and corporate foundations, non-government organizations, private individuals. And from the government po, very strong ang local government units and other government agencies, including DSWD, DILG, NEDA, DBM, DOF, DOH, Congress of the Philippines. Kasama rin po ang PCOO, because we will be partnering with them sa aming TV, DepEd TV programs. For international partnerships, Official Development Assistance Act of 1996, we have government-to-government bilateral agreements from foreign governments or through their international agencies for development. We also have multilateral agreements with the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and the COICA. And so from the external partners, ang summary po sa next slide is 6.2 billion, almost 6.3 billion po ang na-donate ng external partners in cash or in kind. And then, by the way, for those who are not yet aware, we have modified the school calendar under DepEd Order number 30. The first day of classes was officially October 5, and our last day of classes will be June 11 of 2021. We will still have Christmas vacation starting December 19 to January 3, and then the quarters will be after every 8 weeks. We will have a mid-year break after the second quarter. I think this is about February, so that teachers can, get additional capacity building activities, and the learners may also enjoy a break from having to learn during this COVID-19 pandemic. And then we also issued the interim policy guidelines for assessment, grading in light of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan under DepEd Order number 31, which is really to address the challenges in the conduct of assessment. So we have recognized that there will be limitations on the giving of immediate feedback and the need to account for different contexts in designing, implementing, and grading assessment tasks. So why did we issue this? So that we will be able to ensure that all learners are fairly assessed and graded in the continuation of education during this health crisis. This was also issued to emphasize that learning standards shall be attained with the provision of reasonable leniency and considerations for possible difficulties met by the learner. For the current school year, quarterly assessment shall not be administered. So we are dispensing with the periodical exams. To evaluate student learning at particular points in each quarter, summative tests shall continue in the form of written works and performance tasks. There's no tried and tested method for dealing with a global pandemic, but there's hope for finding ways to adapt. Children and youth affected by a lack of resources or enabling environment to access learning are really our realities. The teaching profession and their need for better training in new methods of education delivery as well as support is also a concern. The whole education community upon whom education continuity depends during crisis is also something that we are mindful of. So there's hope for finding ways to adapt. Let us find a way in fulfilling the promised future to our children and youth in an emergency, according to Michael Ryan, Executive Director of the World Health Organization.
All right.
Everyone is afraid of the consequence of error, but the greatest error is not to move. The greatest error is to be paralyzed by the fear of failure. We need to act quickly, be the first movers, but also with careful consideration of options, consequences, and side effects of actions taken. So that actually inspires us to really do something instead of just wait for things to happen and overwhelm us. Of course, we belong to the so-called curriculum and instruction strand, or we belong to the CI strand, and we always remind ourselves that children are most important. Thank you very much po. Mabuhay and
Napakadaming hinanda ni Yusek Dads at napakadami ding tanong na pumasok na, Yusek Dads. Kaya huwag ka aalis dyan na
Sige po.
we will stand and respond to these questions. Samut-sari, mula media, mula CSOs, mula sa ating mga mamamayan. Ngayon po, pumunta naman tayo sa isang development agency na nakatutok din sa usapin ng edukasyon. Ang ating pong sunod na panelist ay ang Chief of Education ng UNICEF Philippines, si E.C. Feingold. He is a Peruvian national with more than 14 years experience in public policy and social sectors in international organizations. Siya ay nagtrabaho sa London bilang Global Director ng Policy at Teach for All at sa Washington, D.C. bilang Education Specialist sa World Bank. Mga kaibigan at kababayan, welcome po natin si Mr. E.C. Feingold ng UNICEF Philippines. Welcome to the discussion, Senor E.C.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon. Can you hear me well? Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this kind invitation on behalf of UNICEF. We are glad to be part of these conversations and these discussions. And I like to start first congratulating the Department of Education for the start of the school year. I think it was very good decision that UNICEF has been supporting. And we know that there are many challenges ahead, but the continuity of learning is a critical decision, and we all should support the implementation now of the new school year. UNICEF has been supporting and is continuing supporting ministries of education all around the world to ensure the continuation of learning through remote and alternative delivery modalities, and to prepare schools for reopening as soon as possible, and when the health and safety considerations allowed for reopening. We know that there is a risk that when schools reopen, we will have lost recent gains in learning and that marginalized students will remain excluded, and some of them may never return to classrooms. So this type of disruption on the education services because of crisis have had these consequences in the past in other parts of the world, in other breakdowns and crises. So we are paying attention carefully on this. But at the same time, we think that there is a great opportunity to emerge from this crisis with improved learning outcomes and more inclusive schools. So this crisis, as all crises, is also an opportunity to build a better education system and to be better prepared for future crises, for future pandemics that we might face. And today, I like to share a very short presentation. I don't know if you can help me with the slides. I don't know if you can share the screen. So
I think the staff will share the screen, sir. Okay. Wait a while.
So in the present, I can continue speaking, but let me know when the presentation is ready. But in the meantime, I will continue. So UNICEF also has prepared a framework for reopening schools together with UNESCO and the World Bank. And this framework for reopening schools has six very important dimensions. One of the dimensions is on safe schools operation, so making sure that the schools are ready to receive the students and have all these considerations of safety and health on place. Second is the focus on learning. So we need to continue thinking on how, despite of the challenges, despite of what we are seeing or facing, how we can continue improving the learning outcomes of our children. Especially in these times, is even more important than ever. Third dimension is including the most marginalized students. They are the most at risk when these type of situations happen. Children with disabilities, children in rural areas, indigenous communities. So it's very important that we pay special attention to those with more that live with more difficult conditions. So it's a critical part of the support. And the fourth dimension is the well-being and the protection of the student, but also of their teachers and the communities in general. So this should be number one priority. Underpinning these four dimensions, there are two other very important dimensions: the policies dimension and the financing support. So these areas are also critical elements on how we respond to crisis and how we prepare for learning continuity and for reopening of schools. We also are very happy to see that the Department of Education has been guided by this framework for reopening schools, and this has been taken into account when the Department of Education developed the basic education learning continuity. I think this is a very important part of the work that the international organizations are trying to do and to support governments all around the world. So let me go now to the next slide. So I will focus the presentation on three main questions that have been assigned to me. So one is, how is UNICEF supporting efforts to facilitate the learning continuity plan? Second is on what are the global practices and trends that can be useful for the Philippines, based on the UNICEF experience in other countries and how we are supporting governments in other countries. And finally, and third, the third question that was assigned to me is, what are the areas of vulnerabilities in the learning continuity modalities? So let me start first with how UNICEF is supporting efforts to facilitate the learning continuity. So we are working in different areas, from early childhood education to primary level and also adolescent learning. So for early childhood education, a very important work that we have been doing is supporting parents for home-based learning for the youngest children. I think this is a joint effort with the ECCD Council, with the Department of Education, with DSWD. So we prepare a series of webinars to provide information, guidance, orientation to parents on how they can support their children with home base. I think this is an area that has been very well received by parents. We have had in total more than 500,000 viewers of these different webinars with very useful tips on how to face the situation. We are also preparing different documents, materials, storybooks for children. One of them is A las Cinco, which has been prepared together with the University of the Philippines, in which we are, through a storybook, provide support for children, explaining what is COVID-19 and how they can cope with it. And this is for parents and for children at the same time. And we are preparing orientations for parents, for local government officers on how to better support their parents. So we have already starting with this series of webinars, but we will continue. This is an ongoing effort, and this is a critical area because usually the youngest children are sometimes left behind in this type of crisis, and the focus usually goes to primary and secondary education. But UNICEF is highlighting the importance of preschool, even before kindergarten, on the Child Development Center. So if we go to the next slide, I can share also part of our work with the primary level. I think this is also a very important part of UNICEF work. We have been working closely with the Department of Education in improving the online learning platform, Commons. I think in this area we are supporting the conversion of the learning modules to ebooks, and these are materials that some of them are already not available for the students. Also, we have been working even before the crisis in the rural schools, multi-grade schools, providing technological packages that include laptops for the teachers and tablets for the children. So this has been part of a project in Region 8. So, and now these schools have better conditions to overcome the challenges around COVID-19. And we have been supporting the Department of Education and Communication strategies. I think this is a critical area because at the beginning, the enrollment rates were relatively low, but we have seen now that the public school enrollment has been very high. And this is a very important work that the Department of Education has been doing. There are some challenges still with the alternative learning system, but I'll talk a bit more about that in the next slide. So let's move to the adolescent learning. Our support, UNICEF has focused on the alternative learning system. So we have identified that the enrollment is relatively low for the ALS, and we are preparing communication for development strategies to try to increase the registration and the attendance of ALS learners. We know that in the Philippines there are more than 2.8 million children and adolescents out of school. So for those who cannot return to the formal education, ALS is a very good alternative that has been improving in the recent years. I think the quality of the services is getting better, and this is an opportunity for those who are out of school to continue attending it. So as part of this work, we have been training ALS teachers in the blended learning, so they are better prepared for this situation. And also we have an ongoing project in Zamboanga del Norte, in Region 9, to improve the development of life skills and also to work with the community to ensure that out-of-school children are enrolled either in ALS or in formal education. And let me go now to the next slide, please. So part of the second question is on what are the best global practices. So I want to share first that I cannot cover that because I mean all countries in the world are facing the COVID-19 challenges. So in one way or another, and this is also a great opportunity for learning from other countries, but we have to be fast learners because there are many things happening at the same time. So UNICEF recently published a document that is called Reopening Schools Case Studies, with some of these experiences that we would love to share with all of you across the world. So different examples of what countries are doing in the slide. I don't know if all of you can see the slide, but there are some examples of from countries. I'm going to mention some of them. So one good practice is on this type of situation, how countries have reacted well. And this includes the Philippines, the first example, on prioritizing or simplifying the curriculum. This is something that, for example, in the region, Vietnam has been doing, Pakistan, for example, and the Philippines already prepare a simplified curriculum. The MELC, the most essential learning competences. You say that and can tell more and better about this than I am, because he has been leading this very interesting process. But this is a good practice. We have to be pragmatic in this situation. We cannot cover an extensive curriculum when there are some interruptions on the education services, and we know that the distance learning is not going to be perfect. So we have to be pragmatic and to prioritize what are the most essential learning competencies that we have to focus. Second, another important in the part of policy is to adjust the academic calendars and exams. So some countries have focused on how to do that. I think that's another very good practice. We have seen examples of other countries as well that are providing different modalities for distance learning, combining TV education, radio, internet, and also printed material. So the Philippines is also in the right direction with the starting of the school year. And there are other countries, for example, that have decided to do a progressive re-enrollment, face-to-face schooling, focusing on rural areas or low-risk areas. So they started progressively reopening schools, but first in the areas with no cases or with minimal cases. That's an approach that we have seen, for example, in Mexico and other countries, but we recommend this approach for the Philippines. And I know that the PET is having these discussions, and eventually this could happen also in the Philippines. I think this could be a good practice as well. In other countries, we have seen that they do the return of school, but progressively, for example, for secondary first, because they thought that it was going to be easier to keep distance learning and to keep the physical distance for older students. But in other countries, they decided, for example, to start with the youngest kids because they are less prone to get infected by COVID. Even though that it's more difficult to keep physical distance, but at the same time, it's easier and safer for them.
Okay.
Do we have one more minute, or I'm running out of time?
Could we wrap it up a bit? So
Yes.
that it's very interesting, but we have another speaker and a lot of questions for all of you coming up. Can we
Yes,
wrap it up a bit?
let me do the last slide.
Okay.
Or maybe I can wrap up maybe I don't need the slide. So just to finalize my presentation in 1 or 2 minutes. So what are the main recommendations that UNICEF is providing for the Philippines? So one is to start thinking on the face-to-face schooling, how to progressively the country can return to face-to-face school, because we know that distance learning is the second best option. No? It won't be the same as face-to-face. I mean, it's what we have to do now because we have to continue with education, but it's much better to have face-to-face learning. So progressively start planning on this. And this also for early childhood education, for the child development centers, and also for ALS centers, for the CLC, the community learning center. It's important to start thinking how we are planning this and what are the safety considerations that we must put in place. No? And the learning continuity plan already have these orientations in terms of the size of the schools, how many students can be there, and how to progressively get there. So that's number one. Number two, another recommendation is to continue focusing on the most disadvantaged children. How can we make sure that children with disabilities, children in rural areas are not left behind in this process? What are extra efforts that we all can do, not only the PET, but the international community, NGOs, LGUs, how will we all work together to ensure that they are not left behind? And this includes distribution. This is something that UNICEF is supporting, a distribution of printed materials, school in a box, or CLC in a box for ALS, this kind of initiative, are storybooks that we can send to the youngest children. So given time constraints, I'm going to stop here, but again, I like to thank you for this invitation, and again, congratulate the Department of Education and the Philippines for starting the school year. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Isi. You've triggered a lot of questions. Very interesting presentation. And now we go to a representative of the civil society. Miss Mayrian Don Cinco is the National Coordinator of the Civil Society Network for Education Reforms, or ENET Philippines. Ito po ay koalisyon ng 130 member organizations and partners mula sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa na tumututok sa usapin at issue ng edukasyon at budget, lalo na para sa mga marginalized, excluded, at vulnerable learners. Si May ay nasa larangan ng education advocacy at outreach mula pa noong 1995. Kasama din po siya sa Alternative Budget Initiative on Education Cluster ng Social Watch Philippines. May, okay, ready?
Yeah, thank you very much, Malu. Good to see you. Student days pa. Okay, so magandang hapon sa lahat. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the introduction and also introducing ENET Philippines as a civil society organization of 130 marginalized groups. Yes, thank you also USEC DADS for the nice presentation and updating the data on our education system now during the pandemic. And it's good that I am the last because I can take on to some of the inputs of the two gentlemen sharing, no? And thank you IC of UNICEF for your focus also on giving services to the marginalized and disadvantaged learners, because that is also our advocacy. So I'm gonna share to you what are the initiatives of ENET Philippines. Yeah, USEC DADS said it very right. ENET Philippines has also been very active in crafting, in designing the basic education learning continuity plan to the platform of Education Forum, or the local education group in the Philippines. We are part of that. And we are also thankful for USEC DADS whenever we need this speaker about to explain about the learning continuity plan. He made himself available for us. So yeah, so let me share to you. I think someone would help me in screen share. Is it visible now on the screen? Anyway, if it is not, I should really wanted to show, because I will show the challenges with regards to the present education during the pandemic. Can someone share my screen? Miss Malu, is it visible now? I'm sorry. Not yet? Okay, I just go on.
Live na siya, Miss May.
Okay, thank you very much for the one who's sharing. I think it's Erica. So in my first slide, it's just the title. So we can go now to the second slide, wherein in building back better for the education system in the new normal, we believe on the call for inclusive and equitable quality education as a foundation to build back better. So we really need to strengthen our education effort to be able to build back better. Sabi nga kanina ni Yusek Dads, may mga problema man, may challenges, but let this pandemic or this kind of crisis be also our opportunity to build back better our education system. One of the DepEd initiative, as also mentioned by IC, is coming up with the most essential curriculum. So it's really, we have critique also of the K-12 agenda before. It's a lot of things. Is that really the need of the student? This pandemic shows really its limitation. So it's good that DepEd also has initiative to reform the K-12 curriculum, no? To answer most of the needs of the learners really, or it would be a more learner-centered. So in that slide, you can see ENET Philippines has been supporting the DepEd even before we made this statement, even if they opened as way back as August, no? So because we believe education must continue, education cannot wait, these are the children, UNICEF has studied for that. Whenever there will be a prolonged closure of classes, it would create more mental health problems. So in building back better, our good foundation is still on our Constitution, giving an equal opportunity to all Filipinos to have education, especially in this time of crisis. As Isi mentioned, those who have been left behind even before the pandemic, if we will not do a strategic change of our target, they will be left behind more. So yung mga naiiwan na dati, at pag hindi pa natin pinansin ngayon, lalo silang may iwan. Then I'm gonna show you some of the data. This also came from DepEd. I think Yusek Dads has also shared this before, a while ago. So next slide, on the third slide. I want to show you just a comparative of the data that is being also circulated online. So there's an update from Yusek Dads, no? But this one is still not so, hindi malayo, not so far from what Yusek Dads has shared. So we can see there are 24,199,478 enrollees, no? So that's the total, both public and private. So let's say it's a 25 million. But then, to the enrollment, as what is been said, and also IC has recognized it, there is a very marginalized participation of those disadvantaged sector, like the learners with disability. Just imagine out of 24 million, only 64,000, let's say it's 65,000. That's really a tuldok in a wider range, ano? Baka nga hindi pa makita yung tuldok, no? And then also with the ALS, that is from Yusek Dads a while ago, 397,000 now enrolled in ALS. That is very far beyond the target of ALS Task Force during their strategic plan, because they're planning for around 2 million to serve 2 million out of school youth. And IC is right, because we have really a number. But according to the study of the Senate Basic Education Committee on Basic Education, those Filipino really missing basic education is around 24 million. So that is the basis of Senator Win for coming up with this ALS bill. So that is 24. And even on the present data, according to DepEd, there is really this 3.3 million who have not yet enrolled. So this 3.3 million might as well be the prospect of alternative learning system because they cannot enroll. They will be added to the number of out of school, no? School age children and youth. So that is a very challenge talaga to our education system. So since we are on the advocacy, what we are suggesting is really to improve. And it's good to hear that from IC, no? We can help on that to really improve communication, campaign, and system. How this marginalized and disadvantaged sector could really have a fighting chance to be enrolled in this present learning system that we have, because we want to build better, no? So that is a challenge. So how do we do that? This is just some of the advocacy. I tell you the experience of BHW, Barangay Health Workers. You know, they are very organized at the barangay level. I think the DILG has a very crucial role in in ensuring that education is for all. It should be barangay level. While there is an initiative from the national, the implementation is also from the ground. Remember our strategy in CSO, the Bibingka strategy, there should be fire up and there should be fire down so that we can achieve our goal. So remember, I tell you just one, one model of how do we really find this out of school use or this disadvantaged sector. It will be on the barangay level. We have education committee. Or even if we don't have education committee at the barangay level, let it works. Let it, let them organize. It is on the local government code that there should be education code. So compared to the BHW, these BHW are very basic masses. They are not health professionals, but because of the training that the government has given them, they become health workers. So why can't we have a barangay education workers, no? So to address our gaps in serving the marginalized sector. Right. So that is so yes.
Fast break na tayo. Parang maraming katanungan ang pumapasok.
Okay, so just let me tell you, just to give a big picture of INET initiative. So those were just some practical tips, no? So I just give me a few minutes. So because the question is, what is our engagement? So there are three strategic roles that INET is doing. One is really the advocacy for inclusion of this marginalized sector. So we go into legislative advocacy. We go into, advocating for other alternative learning system on the Senate level, of course, inside the DepEd. And then another one is, you mentioned about the alternative budget initiative in partnership with Social Watch Philippines. So we also submit alternative budget that we feel are more needed by the community. And then like the UNICEF, that is the third initiative, a bigger initiative that we have. We want to ensure a safe back to school strategy. When I say safe back to school strategy, is two things with regards to INET. One is the safety of the environment. It was already discussed. But one thing that I want to discuss about that safe back to school is the protection of the children. There are reports of harassment, abuse happening now. So we wanted to promote the positive discipline also as a way of promoting a safe learning environment. I cannot say school now, but a safe learning environment. In fact, we have a partnership with DepEd. It will be starting tomorrow. I think USEC DADS will be also in that opening. We will hold a seminar for all teachers in all regions about this implementation of positive discipline. So to build back better, are we ready? The question of our webinar, is Philippines ready now? We will be ready we will have a better education system if no one is left behind. Walang maiiwan, walang dapat maiwan, walang dapat maisang tabi sa pagbabalik natin sa edukasyon. Thank you very much, Malu. Thank you.
Galing naman, Miss May. Ngayon, bago po tayo maghanda sa ating open forum, may pakikinggan ho tayong video na pinaghirapang gawin ng ating team mula sa PCOO, DILG at DBM. Tingnan po natin ang kwento ng Dagyao 2020, Open Government Virtual Town Hall Sessions. At ready na ang ating mga tanong in a while after this video. Panoorin po natin.
Sa gitna ng mga hamong dala ng pandemya ng COVID-19, lalong higit na mahalaga ang pakikipagtulungan at pakikipag-ugnayan sa pagitan ng gobyerno at ng ating mga mamamayan. Kung kaya't sa pangunguna ng Department of Interior and Local Government, Presidential Communications Operations Office, Department of Budget and Management, kasama ang Caucus of Development Network NGOs at Right to Know, Right Now Coalition, muling inilulunsad ng Participatory Governance Cluster of the Cabinet ang Dagyao 2020 Open Government Virtual Town Hall Sessions. Isang salitang hiligay noon ang Dagyao na ang ibig sabihin ay bayanihan. Ang Dagyao 2020 Virtual Town Hall Sessions ay serye ng mga dialogo sa pagitan ng pamahalaan at ng mga mamayang Pilipino tungkol sa mga importanteng isyung panlipunan. At sa aming naunang pagkonsulta sa sambayanan, maraming katanungan ang aming natanggap.
Pasokan na naman, paano po kaya ako makakasiguro na ligtas at maganda pa rin ang kalidad ng edukasyon ng aking mga anak sa ilalim ng distance and blended learning program ng kanilang school?
When will our islands be open for domestic tourism and international tourism?
Para sa aming mga uuwing OFW, ano-ano po ba ang mga trabaho na nag-aantay sa amin sa Pilipinas? May mga programa po ba ang gobyerno para sa amin?
Kamusta naman po yung ayuda ng pamahalaan para sa aming mahihirap? Ganon din po sa mga empleyado at sa mga kumpanya at sa iba pa pong grupo na naapektuhan ng pandemya.
Ano po ba ang national ID at administrasyong hatid nito sa amin?
Sa panahon ng ating kalituhan at mga agam-agam sa gitna ng COVID-19 pandemic, ating sasagutin ang inyong mga katanungan. Layunin ng Dagyao 2020 Virtual Town Hall Sessions na magsilbing gabay sa karamihan patungkol sa mga plano, polisiya, programa at solusyon ng pamahalaan upang matugunan ang mga hamong ating kinakaharap.
Sa Dagyao, malayang makikipag-usap ang ating mga mamamayan sa mga eksperto mula sa pamahalaan at iba pang sektor ng lipunan. Ating payayabungin ang ating tiwala sa gobyerno at sa isa't isa. At pag-uusayan pa natin ang paghahatid ng serbisyo publiko gamit ang makabuluhang talakayan.
Sa pamagitan ng Dagyao, ating bibigyan linaw ang mga isyong mahalaga sa taong bayan. Susuriin natin kasama ng sambayanan ang mga pangunahing programa ng pamahalaan. Sisiguraduhin natin na ang gobyerno ay nakikinig at inaaksyonan ang mga hinaing at mga isyong mahalaga sa ating mga komunidad.
Halika, ikaw, maging marunong, maging aktibong Pilipino. Ikaw ay aming inaanyayahang magtanong, makialam at makilahok.
Kami ay kasama ninyo, bukas, gumagabay, nakikinig, tumatalima, binibigyang halaga ang boses ng bawat Pilipino.
Nandirito po ang inyong gobyerno. Ito po ang mensaheng hatid ng Dagyao 2020 Open Government Virtual Town Hall Sessions.
Kita po natin ang video na yan. Meron ho kami ding bagong iaalok sa inyo, isang surprise ito. Meron ho tayong online poll. So napakinggan natin yung mga eksperto, napakinggan natin yung video. Ngayon naman, pulsohan natin ang taong bayan. Kasama po kayo sa aming inaanyayahang makilahok at sagutin ang ating usapang edukasyon poll question. Meron ka bang concerns o issue kaugnay ng pagbubukas ng klase nitong Lunes? Kung oo, ano ito? A. Issue sa gadget o kagamitang pampaaralan. B. Paghanap ng maayos na learning environment para sa estudyante. C. Issue sa internet connection at teknolohiya. At D. Epektibong pagkatuto ng mga estudyante. Sa ating mga Zoom participants, maaari po kayong bumoto gamit ang ating poll feature. Kung wala po sa ating choices ang inyong mga concerns, maaari po nyo i-relay ang inyong kasagutan patungkol sa ibang mga issue gusto ninyong ma-address sa ating Zoom chat box. Sa ating mga taga-subaybay sa Facebook Live, maaari po kayong bumoto at magkomento gamit ang comment section ng ating Facebook live stream. Babalikan po natin ang resulta ng ating poll question bago magtapos ang ating programa. And officially, formally, we will open the open forum para po magkwentuhan naman ang ating mga panelists at public officials at ang ating mga taong bayan. May isa po nagpadala ng isang question para ahead, ano? Si Ms. Reg Sibal Sevilla. May katanungan kaya ta, Ms. Reg. Pwede bang mauna ka na? Buena mano. Ikaw na muna
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. First of all, thank you po sa pagkakataong itong magtanong. Congratulations po pala sa DepEd at kay Yusek Dads, no, dahil po sa pagbubukas ng ating school year sa taon na nagsimula ngayong linggo. Nais ko pong i-highlight, no, kasi nabanggit kanina ni Ma'am May at saka ni Sir Ishi din na tungkol sa disadvantaged learners. So ito po yung isa sa dalawang major na tanong ko na sinumite, no. Ang unang tanong ko po ay, dahil nabanggit na naman po, no, so ano yung mga paraan na ginagawa po ngayon upang masigurong matulungan at maparating ang quality education sa grassroots at sa disadvantaged learners? So yun po yung aking unang tanong. Sana po masagot po niyo.
So, para mas economical yung ating gamit ng panahon, dahil limitado yung panahon, pero napakadaming tanong, pwedeng quick answer mula kay Yusek Dads. Okay,
thank you, Ma'am Malu, at thank you, Ms. Reg. Inclusive education tayo kahit may COVID-19. So, may mga estratehiya tayong ginagawa dito, yung pagkakadesenyo ng learning resources, yung lalo na sa mga digital format, naglagay tayo ng mga FSL, Filipino Sign Language Translations para sa mga batang makaka-beneficia dito. At marami pang ibang mga paraan. At nakita ko talagang pinaigting din yung pagkikipag-ugnayan ng DepEd sa mga magulang mismo. Sinanay sila, binigyan ng kasanayan para mabigyan ng suporta yung mga anak nila. Kasama kasi sa mga talagang kailangan bigyan ng dagdag na pansin ng mga learners with special needs. Kasama na rin po yung mga early grades learners. Pang-pareha sila nangangailangan ng mas malaking suporta galing sa isang nakatatanda o professional.
Susunod po magtatanong, galing sa Legazpi City, Albay, si Ms. Prudencia Sanoy ng EDUCO, Fundación de Educación y Cooperación. Ms. Sanoy, are you on board na?
Yes po. Magandang hapon po sa lahat, Sir Dads. Magandang hapon po. Napaka-substantial po ng inyong presentation, pero meron po akong isang concern about the grading system. Kasi nabanggit mo na meron tayong bagong DepEd order, number 31, tungkol doon sa bagong DepEd order, tungkol sa grading system, sa assessment. Kaya lamang maraming magulang ang hindi nakakaalam ng grading system na ito, lalo pa at sinabi mo po na wala na yung ating periodical test. Pwede po bang panalimin natin ito?
Sir Dad, ikaw ulit. Baka pumasa yung mga teacher ay mga magulang, baka yung estudyante hindi. Paano ba i-grade yung trabaho ngayon ng ating mga bata?
Yes.
Quick reply.
Thank you, Ma'am Malu. At Ate Prudence, maraming salamat. Totoo po yan. Ang inalis po natin, katulad ng ginawa natin sa fourth quarter ng nakalipas na school year, kung saan naabutan na tayo ng quarantine at mga lockdowns, wala po muna tayong examinations, periodical exams sa mga quarters ngayon. Ang matitira yung written outputs at performance tasks. Mga portfolios ang gagawin ng bata, ini-encourage natin ang mga teacher na sa gawa ng mga conversations, mag-uusap, pagkikwentuhan tungkol sa mga inaaral at dito matatansya na kung gaano kalalim yung natutunan ng bata. So may marka pa rin po sila, numerical ratings, at yung po talagang nagpapakita na hindi naman nila siniseryoso yung pag-aaral ay hindi po sila makakapasa. So sana naman lahat ng bata ay papakita na siniseryoso nila yung mga ginagawa.
Tulong for all three panelists, galing kay Ms. Luz Abayan mula sa Child Rights Coalition Asia sa Quezon City. Ms. Luz.
Maraming salamat po. So, bago kasi sa ating lahat ang epekto ng pandemya, kung kaya may recalibration tayo mga narinig kayo SecDads kanina. So, di naman natin maiiwasan na may mga sumulpot na kailangang troubleshooting sa programa, lalong-lalo na mga bago ang plataforma, bago yung mga methods. So, paano kaya nagtutulungan ang DepEd, mga LGUs, NGOs, private sector para masigurong ang paggamit ng kabuuang budget ay ayon sa lumalabas na mga pangangailangan o datos ng ukol sa kondisyon o karanasan ng mga bata sa buong bansa para masigurong no one is left behind. Salamat po.
Isang quick question, hindi ko alam kung gusto basahin ni Ms. Maria Regina Corazon Sevilla Sibal ulit, yung GIZ, German Agency for International Cooperation. May tanong siya dito kasing specific, yung Special Education Fund budgets ng mga LGU, hindi naman pantay-pantay. Paano pwedeng mas maging responsive yung mga LGUs na kapos sa SEF at yung namang medyo meron, paano masisiguro yung marginalized at yung mga children with disabilities at yung mga internally displaced nandoon sa priority list nila. Siguro CIC could respond to that and also USEC DADS. Tapos we'll go now to many other questions.
I see. Shall I do it ahead of you? Okay, on the part of DepEd, we were really aware na magkakaiba-iba yung kakayahan ng mga local governments. So yung pong dinownload nating mga funds galing sa DepEd mismo, factor po yung parang sabi namin, those with abundant funds for SEF will have, there was a factor na parang a certain percent kinumpute namin na pag marami kayong SAF, kayo ay mas mababa ang kukunin sa DepEd. So, ginawa po natin yun para maging mas equitable yung availability ng resources within DepEd. Tapos yun naman po within yung pag-coordinate ng DepEd, local DepEd at local governments, nakita po natin talagang very intense yung coordination. Kasama yung mga local partners other than government agencies. Talaga pong nagtulungan sila and nakita namin alam nila kung ano yung priorities. Yung po ang maganda pagka-open ang proseso at may pagkakataong makibahagi ng kanilang mga efforts yung mga iba-ibang sector. At ito po ay talagang nangyayari na sa DepEd, yung school-based management, yung decentralization, shared governance. Totoong-totoo na po ito.
Okay. Mukhang ang focus ng question ni Ms. Reg Sibal, nag-chat, siya, message siya. And I guess for IC, meron ba kayong estimate ng funding gap lalo na sa mga underserved o marginalized communities? At kung talagang hindi kayang i-stretch yung SEF, ano yung ginagawa ng Department of Education for Special Intervention? I see, may funding gap estimate ka?
Yes. Thank you for this is a very, very important question. In 2015, there was an agreement between different ministries of education in the world. They meet in Korea in Incheon, and they committed to invest at least 6% of the GDP for the budget for education. So ideally minimum 4, but ideally 6%. 6% of percentage of the GDP should be the budget for education. And we know that the Philippines is still far from there. It's below 3%. No? And they have been, especially with the K-12 reform, increasing budgets, but we're still far from there. No? And also in the Incheon Declaration, they estimated what percentage of the national budget should go to education. And this should be between 15% and 20% of the national budget should go to the education sector. This is a commitment for all the countries. And in the case of the Philippines, again, in recent years we have seen important increases there, but still close to 15 or below 15%. So I think there is still a gap for the national level to increase the budget. But we know that with the COVID-19 crisis that is affecting the economy, it's very hard to push for additional resources, especially when health sector, for obvious reasons, is getting more resources. So this is still an area for advocacy and also for improvement. I think there are still many gaps in education, and in this crisis, what we have seen is and not only in the Philippines, but in all the countries, the digital divide, especially in middle income and low income countries. We see that we need massive investments to provide connectivity to the rural areas, to all schools. So this is this crisis has been an opening on the very difficult gaps that we have. Yeah.
Okay. We've said questions actually early on, and these are people who sent in their questions. There's a quick question here from James Francis Miradora, the Asia Foundation. What is the status of reproduction of modules for the entire school year? So hindi lang po ito per area. I think Yusek Dad's quick response. Kasi kanina may marami kang numero. Pero ano ba talaga, kasi you're hearing from some other areas, walang papel, wala ng printer, wala ng mga estudyante na mapapadalhan dahil walang sasakyan para dalhin sa mga rural communities. Ano po status? Reproduction and I think I would say deployment of modules for the entire
Sadali po, I'll have to check my generally po, yung datos na pinakita ko kanina ay for the first quarter. So yung pong first 2 weeks, ang commitment sa amin ng mga regional officials namin ay ready na. May mga divisions po na 1 month ang ipinamigay. So ongoing po yung second month reproduction and correspondingly distribution. Yung pong second quarter, ang karamihan po sa mga SLMs natin ay undergoing conformance review. At hopefully by the middle of October, tapos na po kami at pwede nang mag-start ng reproduction ang aming mga field offices. Yung pong third and fourth quarter, as I already mentioned, I think, or kung hindi pa, we will engage the private sector. So yung quarters 3 and 4 self-learning modules po, hopefully, may ongoing talks na po kami, 2 meetings na, inaayos namin yung tech specs at yung mga requirements so that we can proceed with the procurement of the self-learning modules for quarters 3 and 4. That would mean after February pa po yan gagamitin, kaya may lead time kami. Kaya po kami nag-in-house within DepEd reproduction ng quarters 1 and 2 because it was really impossible for us to have them procured and distributed if we would have done it with the private sector sa first quarter. Talagang constraint of time and had to make us do things like decentralized para mas mabilis na po yung delivery.
Okay. Ngayon, meron tayong isang quick question for all the participants. Bali, pang-4 na araw ngayon ng klase, ano po yung inyong quick assessment, initial assessment ng first few days ng klase at ating pag-adapt sa new learning modalities? Kay Yusek Dad, sinabi nyo kanina, equity, inclusion, quality ang pamantayan. So if that could be one reference, what is your initial sense, assessment po 4 na araw na unang nagkaroon ng klase? Siguro scale of 1 to 10 o ano ba gusto ninyo grade? Passing grade dapat 75?
Ako po, siyempre, I'm biased, so I'll claim that we were able to do it within our efforts. So nairaos po natin, I should say that term na naging mabisa naman po yung mga plano namin na i-implement. We understand na kahit ngayon po may mga pinapakita na may mga mali-mali sa ating self-learning resources, but we are still verifying kung ito ay amin. Kasi po, iba-iba yung estratehiya natin. Baka yung iba, private school din ang mga gumawa. So, binavalidate pa po namin. Pero kasama na rin po yan sa talagang sinikap namin gawin, but I understand may lumulusot pa rin po, but nakakapagpatabarin lang po ng puso yung ibang nagre-remind sa amin na marami na kayong ginawang tama. Yung mga mali-maling hinahanap ay kasama na rin yan sa mga dapat namin ipaliwanag. So, lalo po namin tinatighten yung quality assurance. Nakita ko rin po na yung mga bata seemingly are overwhelmed kasi nung dinesign yung mga activities, iba-ibang teacher, hindi gaano nakapag-coordinate. So, ang nakita po natin, medyo overwhelming yung activity. So, para calibrate ng mga hinihingi sa bata, para po reasonable pa naman yung mga gagawin na within the, baka hindi na natutulog yung iba. So, ito po yung mga nakita natin at nung pong day 1 ay may mga kumukuha pa lamang kanilang mga learning resources sa mga paaralan. Siyempre po, nire-recognize natin na yung internet is an issue, pero sabi nga po natin, it should not be a hindrance because we will immediately shift to another mode kung hindi maayos yung internet. Nakamute po kayo, Ma'am Malu.
I see. Can we get your quick assessment?
Yes,
of the classes, equity, inclusion, quality, according to DepEd, are the 3 guideposts.
So I think first, as I was saying before, I think we all have to congratulate the efforts made by the Department of Education, but also by the family, by the local government units, to start the school year. That's a good news. And overall, these first 4 days have been positive in terms of the different modalities that have been in place. For example, in inclusion, it's not only e-learning. There are other modalities, the education, the distribution of modules. So these are considering, like those who cannot access e-learning. But even before we start the school year, we knew that this was going to be difficult. Not only in the Philippines, we have seen this all over the world. Like moving to distance learning or blended learning is challenging because we have not been used to that, and we have not been prepared for all the digital divide and the infrastructure conditions that you cannot solve in a few months. But as I said before, this crisis is an opportunity to build a better system, a more equal system, and it's better to start the classes than not doing anything. I think the alternative is to, for example, to not start the school year, and we all lose with that. There is no winner. I mean, we all would, especially our children, they would be affected and they would have zero learning if we don't start the school year. So I think that decision was very difficult to make, but very important, and UNICEF fully supported it. So the first days have been positive overall. Of course, there have been challenges. We have seen some challenges, but it's a process of learning by doing. I think we need to start the distance learning and adjust, improve. There, as any implementation process is challenging, there are some mistakes, and we have to work together to correct it. And not only expect that the DepEd will solve all the problems. We all have to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Okay. Si May 5, nag-init. Kayo first week of classes.
Well, masaya kami na nagbukas na yung klase para sa mga bata. Ngayon, kasi kung hindi pa to binuksan sa public school, may iwan na ang public school. Lumalarga na ang private school. So we also congratulate syempre ang DepEd sa ginawa nila. So yun, 3 ang ating guidepost, inclusion. So talagang makikiisa kami kung anumang sistema ang pwede natin gawin para maihabol na lumaki ang enrollment ng mga nasa ALS at saka nasa IT at saka nasa learners with disability. So yun yung in terms of inclusion, no? And also of course in terms of equity. In terms of quality, ito lang yung gusto ko ding message na iparating. Hindi na iba ang alternative learning system sa DepEd. In fact, maraming karanasan ang DepEd dyan. In fact, meron tayo dating Bureau of Alternative Learning System. So, we must gain kung ano yung mga naging positive experience natin doon. Yung ALS na yon, malaki ang binigay na premium sa community participation. So, we should learn. I think Prudence is here, no, narinig ko siyang magtanong. So meron tayong pwedeng talagang pagbatayan na. So this is not new. Kailangan lang i-enhance natin with the safety measures. So yun, in terms of yung budget, yun yung sabi natin, habulin natin na magkaroon talaga ng maraming investment. And then sa SEF, can I just add some more for the SEF? So isang panawagan doon sa webinar namin on SEF, kailangan mag-reform na din ng ano yung formula sa paglalagay ng STF. The real valuing of the real property tax. Kasi doon galing yan eh. So yun yung iba doon. Tapos last point po, aside from DepEd na nagbibigay ng basic education, we should also have a public investment for literacy. So maraming ahensya ng gobyerno na may kanya-kanyang education funds. So, paano natin gagamitin to sa magsasaka, sa manggagawa? So, may mga ganyan. And DSWD also have an education fund. So, yun, no? Hindi naman talaga DepEd lang dapat ang konteryahin natin, no? It should be a very collaborative partnership para talagang maisulong natin yung edukasyon natin. This is the time for change. Thank you.
Okay. May katanungan mula kay Jean Macayado ng National Anti-Poverty Commission, Quezon City. Totoo ho ba yung mga reports na may mga teachers sa tinamaan ng COVID-19 dahil sa pamamahagi ng learning modules? Kumpirmado ba ito? Kung totoo, ano ho yung figures? Ilan ang mga gurong ito? At ano pong ginagawa ng DepEd? Kasi sila yung napipilitan ngayong pumunta sa mga bahay-bahay ng mga estudyante para makapagpamahagi ng mga modules. Yusek Dads, quick reply. Meron bang natamaan ng COVID?
Mamalu, ito po ay sa Region 2. Ang ano po sa amin, ang report ay ng superintendent. Sabi niya, hindi po nila yung nakuha during the distribution of modules. Mga KB or SK at barangay tanod po and barangay officials ang nagdi-distribute ng modules doon sa school kung nasaan yung mga teachers. Yung pong source ng virus parang may exposure doon sa kapitbahay nila na Pakistani na namatay sa COVID. Then nag-report sa school not knowing na carrier na siya kaya nagkahawaan. So ang totoong may nahawaan po ito, 8 po yata. Tingnan ko dito sa susunod na information. 11 po ang bilang kasi 2 learners, siyang yung teachers nagkahawaan. Neighbor ng first teacher affected at tapos yung ano po ay nasa quarantine facility na sila ngayon. Yung isa pong na pinakaunang nakahawa ay nasa isang separate quarantine facility. So, hindi po siya nakuha sa pamumudmud kasi hindi naman po mga teachers daw ang namudmud doon sa school na yon. Pero nahawa niya yung mga kasamang guro nang nag-report siya sa school na hindi niya alam ay ano pala siya, carrier ng COVID virus. Yun po ang report sa amin ng regional director.
Okay. There's a question for Mr. IC. In one of your communication materials, you noted that the prolonged stay of children at home would be detrimental, would not be good for their mental health. I think that question should also be raised on behalf of the parents who now have to juggle work and assisting the children for online learning. How do we handle these issues? IC, is this a correct read? Children, prolonged stay at home, not very good for mental health. And I think for parents, the double duty, maybe triple for the women that they now have to take on work, the children, and learning assistance.
Yes, no, this is a very good point, and there are different number of studies that have already proven the effects of COVID-19 and the quarantines and isolation and not starting the school year on the mental health of the children and the families, the parents. I invite you to visit the webpage of our research center, the UNICEF Research Center that is called Innocenti. And we have there a number of studies, and if you enter to Innocenti, you can go to and see mental health studies and COVID, and you will find a number. I recently reviewed. There are studies from Brazil, from Qatar, and all of this from the recent 2 months. So they have already analyzed how the mental health is affected. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to start the school year and to bring the sense of normalcy to the lives of the children. Being locked down, not able to go out to the streets, not being able to play with their friends, and to have social interactions. All of this affects the mental health and the physical health too of the children. So those are some of the many negative effects of school closures and lockdowns and this type of crisis. I can share in the chat box some of these studies, and you can share it in Facebook. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
We have 2 minutes left, and still so many questions. We will respond to some of the questions na posting those sa chat box at sa feedback ng ating mga Facebook pages. May katanungan ho. Ano ho yung nangyayari? How far should this new normal in learning delivery continue? Will SIP in particular be affected, o yung mga last mile learners, ika nga, galing sa Ms. Prudence Sanoy? How about the last mile learners?
Ang sangayon sa aking monitoring, yung mga areas na napuntahan ko, they serve the last mile areas. Yung mga teachers naman kasi are still really, and I'm very proud to be a former teacher myself. 35 years na po ako sa DepEd. I started out as an industrial arts teacher 35 years ago. Ang nakita ko sa mga pag-uusap namin, they would really provide personalized visits sa mga areas. Ang ginawa po nila kasi is clustered yung sectioning. So parang neighborhood halos yung at so may system din sila na ginawang estratehiya. At essentially po, ang delivery modality is modules. Hopefully, kung may radio signal ay isusupplement natin ng radio-based instruction.
Okay. Ngayon may katanungan again, Yusek Dad. Sorry, galing kay Kenneth Pasensya ng PTV4. May mga balita na may mga errors sa ating mga ilang modules at ang online learning materials. Paano ina-action na ng DepEd? Ano exactly yung verification process? When an error is spotted o meron yung maling module, o even quality assurance, ika nga bago lumarga yung mga modules at na-deploy sa mga bahay-bahay. Ano po yung proseso ng pag-correct?
Meron po tayong ilagay na quality assurance protocols, may conformance review, at ano po talaga ginagawa ito. Pero yun nga po, may lumulusot. So ang inaano po natin, pag ganito may mga report, pinapa-verify natin, gawa ba natin yan? Kasi not all modules po naman talaga have been quality assured at the central office level. Binigyan po natin ng authority yung mga local units natin sa baba na gamitin yung sa kanila in cases where hindi namin completely natapos yung intended SLMs for everybody. At in reality po talaga, ganito naman yung nangyari sa amin at pinagandaan na po namin ito lahat. Ngayon na nagpasiguro yung mga division offices, regional offices na nag-develop din ang kanila. So ang ginagawa po natin ngayon, pini-verify kung kaninong gawa yun at saan galing. Kasi mayroon din pong pinapakita at katulad ng pinakaunang naging medyo controversial, hindi naman po gawa ng DepEd. So inahanap po muna natin at tinitingnan at mabilis pong nagre-rectify tayo. Kung may talagang mali ay ini-inform natin yung mga kaguruan na bigyan ng tamang pagtatama ang mga maling ito.
Okay. Medyo kapusuhin pa naman pero may mga questions sa paulit-ulit ang tema, no? Yung pag-sakop para walang maiiwan ng mga batang mahihirap at galing sa mga marginalized communities. Yun po yung katanungan ni Juvie Lobedica, DBM Region 8, Marlene Floresca, Child Fund International, at ni Clarinda Katimpo ng Balita Ngayon. Paano ho masisiguro na ang mga magulang at ang mga kabataan galing dito sa mga lugar ng marginalized communities matutugunan ninyo yung pangangailangan? I guess si Yusek at saka si May could weigh in on these questions. Common concern ito.
Pinapayagan po natin maglagay ng learner support aid para sa mga pamilya na ang mga magulang ay walang kakayahang magbigay ng suporta sa mga bata. Ang isa rin po ginagawa ay yun na nga po, iniba-iba natin yung mga modalities kasi sang-ayon sa sitwasyon at kakayahan ng mga magulang. So kahit po walang gadget, tuloy-tuloy ang pag-aaral, tama po kanina si Izzy na at least meron tayong binibigay na pagkakataon na matuto ang mga batang Pilipino kaysa naman po wala na tayong mabibigay. Ang pintuan po ng DepEd ay bukas sa lahat ng mag-aaral at may suporta po sa mga nangangailangan ito. Basta lang po iparating, kasama na po kasi yan sa survey namin nung nag-enroll, kung ano yung mga gadgets na available, kung ano yung wala, at para ma-prioritize po natin talaga yung mga walang-wala.
Miss May, meron kang parting shots doon? How do we address yung issue ng equity at yung marginalized?
Yeah, of course, sa platform pa rin tayo ng government papasok, no? Because we are really the duty bearer. So, we will continue our active engagement in education forum. Kasi doon naman lahat pinaplansya yung mga ganyang mga usapin, no? So, we will make sure na dun sa mga plano, together also with DepEd, andun din ng UNICEF, sila IC. So we will really get involved diyan sa advocacy na yan. And another thing is on the issue of legislation. Soon, sana, may pasa na yung ALS, pasado na sa bicameral. So, iaakit na sa Office of the President to enact the law. So, mas magkakaroon talaga ng mga basis, legal basis. So, when there is a legal basis, so pwede na tayong mag-deliberate on the budget, no? Na yan ay lagyan ng kaukulang budget. So, yun po ang magagawa natin. So, inside. And of course, may mga initiative din naman kami ng community like what IC has shared. Meron din mga community-initiated project. Yun nga lang, syempre dahil community-initiated yun, syempre on the macro level yun. But it could also be a good showcase, no? Na pwede nating pag-aralan. And then, siguro, sa PC, nanawagan na sa PCOO at saka maybe Malun, no? On your NGO. We could also document these good practices to be assured.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alright, so maraming salamat po sa ating mga panelists kay Yusek Dads San Antonio na bugbog ng mga katanungan pero handang-handang humarap. Si IC Fane Gold ng UNICEF at saka si Ms. May Cinco ng INEP. Ngayon po ipapakita natin kung ano yung mga resulta ng ating Dagyao poll, opinion poll. Meron yung nakikita kayo ngayon yung result ng Zoom poll results. Mga usaping napakahalaga para sa ating mga mamamayan. Hindi lang usaping gadget, kundi environment, learning environment at kung ano pang issues sa pag-abot ng mga modules. Marami hong mga natutunan tayo, marami rin mga usapin na na-provoke tayo. And kung nakikita ninyo, usapin sa gadget, 13%, paghanap ng maayos sa learning environment, 2%, issues sa internet connection, 53%, at issues sa epektibong pagkatuto ng mga estudyante, 53%. So 33 and 53% ang high points, ang high marks. Mukhang malaki pa yung trabaho ng DepEd dito sa atin. Ano ho? Mukhang talagang minsan, gusto mo nga makihalo sa mode, sa learning na blended. Wala namang internet o wala namang gadget. At minsan naman, ang concern ng mga magulang, paano ba matututo kung minimum ang learning standards na kaya nating ibahagi. Sa akin ang mga key points na natutunan ko at sana tayo rin lahat. Sabi ito ni Yusek Dads, equity, inclusion, and quality. Tatlong pamantayan na I think tayo sama-samang pwedeng magtaguyod, gobyerno man, magulang man, teacher, DepEd, at mga estudyante. And I think the first week of classes would show na habang may mga bagong hakbang na ginawa, meron pang maraming tatrabahuhin. Malaki po yung posibleng funding gap, malaki po siguro yung service delivery gap, malaki pa rin siguro yung issues ng monitoring gaps at hindi kailangan bitawan itong usapin na to dahil para ho sa ating mga kabataan. I think yung isang nasabi ni May, stay with me, no, yung usapin ng ang daming ahensya ng gobyerno na may education fund. Hindi lang naman ng DepEd. Sana sumali naman sa pagtulong habang hindi pa natin kabisado paano ba i-address sa mga issue ng hamon ng bagong new normal sa edukasyon. I think particular dito, halimbawa yung National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, Presidential Commission on Women, Philippine Commission on Women, ang dami pong mga usapin, o DSWD, ang DILG, mukhang hindi lang naman to trabaho lang ng DepEd. At hindi naman ho dapat talaga yung mga guro lang ang umiikot. Marami hong barangay captains at mga kagawad na tumutulong. Meron din hong barangay, yung tipong tawag nila bayaning gurong para teachers, ano po, volunteer teachers sa mga barangay natin. Mag-volunteer po tayo para tumulong magkwento at sumagot sa mga tanong ng mga bata. Next week po may usapang trabaho na episode. Ayan, mga walang trabaho o nawalan ng trabaho o posibleng hindi na magkakatrabaho. Next week po, abangan ninyo ang susunod na Dagyaw episode kung saan pag-uusapan natin ang issue ng trabaho. Kung kayo po ay interesado, makilahok sa talakayan, naka-flash po sa ating screen ang mga instructions kung paano kayo makakapag-register online sa susunod na Dagyaw, sa Zoom at Facebook. October 15 po ito, Thursday, 2 p.m. At ngayon sa pagtatapos ng ating programa, pakinggan po natin ang mga insights ng Academe Representative ng Philippine Open Government Partnership Steering Committee at Direktor ng De La Salle University Institute of Governance, si Dr. Ador Torneo, for closing remarks. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Salamat at kaya natin ito, wag lang bibitaw. Dr. Ador?
Magandang hapon po, mabuhay. A pleasant afternoon to all of you. I'm Ador Torneo of De La Salle Institute of Governance and Academe Representative to the Philippine Open Government Partnership. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank all of you for participating in this Dagyaw virtual town hall, Usapang Edukasyon, to discuss a topic very close to my heart, very close to our hearts, education. So, we'd like to extend our gratitude to our speakers, our discussants, Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio, Mr. I.C. Feingold of UNICEF, Ms. May Cinco of UNET Philippines, and of course our moderator, Ms. Madumanga of the Right to Know Right Now Coalition. I would also like to thank all of you who made time to attend this virtual town hall, those from the education sector, from various agencies, civil society and development partners who had a very lively and highly engaged discussion. Maraming salamat. So this afternoon's discussions have served to remind me of the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Definitely, it takes the entire community working hand in hand to educate our children, especially given the enormous challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic and its severe impact on health, social and economic aspects of our lives. No? So student faces numerous difficulties, among others, computer access, internet connectivity, learning, challenging learning environments, and an entirely new medium of learning which many are not accustomed. No? Parents must find a way to bridge these challenges for their children, and they find themselves getting hands-on and more involved in their children's education than they are used to. Of course, we cannot discount the challenges of educational administrators. School administrators must face serious resource, administrative, and logistical challenges of shifting to a flexible education system. Teachers must study new systems, learn a host of new skills, create content, and deliver them as well. Now, I'm closing the term right now, and I've had my first system of full online education. I can say that the experience is similar to learning how to fly an airplane in the air while also building it. Now, I'm a teacher. Like many of you, I can relate to the challenges, and I can only imagine what the challenge is like, especially for those in the public schools. Of course, despite the challenge and even calls for an academic fees, we know that as daunting as a task is, we cannot simply stop education. We do not know for certain when a vaccine or a cure for COVID-19 will be available to us, and we cannot make the resumption of education contingent on our ability to return to the old normal. No? It comes at an enormous cost. So what must we do? The most viable option left to us is to face these challenges together, not on our own, not the DepEd alone, not the schools alone, but together. So today's presentations by DepEd, UNICEF, and UNIT Philippines have emphasized several important considerations as we issue in schooling. The first is that education must be sensitive to the needs and context of different sectors, particularly those who are disadvantaged, those who are marginalized, those who are excluded. We need to acknowledge the digital divide and other socioeconomic, geographic, physical, and other barriers to education. No? We need to collect data on these groups, these very important issues, to act on this data. The second point is the need to be proactive and inclusive, ensuring that those that are facing these challenges and obstacles receive all of the support and provided options to participate in education. This entails imagining what it truly means to be flexible. I'd like to congratulate DepEd because it is trying really hard and is offering online modular radio modalities, no? Different options. Of course, the question is, are these enough? No? We will find out in the next coming days. The third insight is to work with the community and to seek partnerships. We do not have to start from scratch. There is plenty of available skills and educational resources, online and offline, and various organizations are open and willing to share them. And my duties still remain undertapped. Fourth and finally is the importance of learning from others. We can learn from the examples and educational strategies of other countries who are also dealing with this pandemic. I think there were some examples from UNICEF, China, Mexico, Vietnam, Senegal, etc. And there are some recommendations that UNIT Philippines has shared earlier. Of course, learnings and feedbacks are maximized when we act on them. More importantly, we must listen to and learn from one another. To our colleagues in the government, we reiterate the importance of holding dialogues with our stakeholders. To our colleagues from civil society, the development sector, and citizens, to emphasize the need to actively participate and contribute. Ms. Taguiao Virtual Town Hall, Usapang Education, is one way of providing an avenue for citizens to engage decision makers directly, and we hope that more citizen platforms for engagement and participation would be enabled and institutionalized. Of course, we also are hoping that the challenge of closing the feedback loop, which pertains to how we act on the claim and demands of the citizens, will also be institutionalized. Finally, we emphasize the need to create and seize opportunities, collaborate with one another, to keep open channels for communication, which is the essence of open education, the essence of open government partnership. I'd like to thank everyone for their participation, to our hardworking organizers from OGT Philippines, DBM, DALG, PCOO, right now, Hope NGO, we salute you, to our national government agencies, local government development partners, colleagues in civil society, and other citizens. Thank you very much. We look forward to more dialogues and collaboration. Let us keep working together for the betterment of our children. Mabuhay po kayo at magandang hapon.
Okay, maraming salamat, Prof. Ador. Bago po magtapos finally, wala po magpapaumanhin kami sa technical glitches kanina, kaya medyo na-delay yung aking pagsisimula. Sisiguraduhin po ng napakasipag na team ng PCOO, DILG at DBM na sa susunod na linggo, usapang trabaho, hindi na ito mangyayaring muli. Gusto po namin makinig sa inyong recommendations o comments kung paano mas mapapabuti ang daloy ng Dagyao 2020. Inaanyayahan po namin kayong sagutin ang Dagyao Post-Event Survey. So sabihin niyo po kung ano yung nasa kalooban ninyo. Okay, hindi okay, okay pa rin ho yun. At this point, gusto ko rin pasalamatan, napakakulit ho, pero napakasipag ng Dagyao team na to, mula kay Miss Marian hanggang sa kila Pearl at saka si Abino, si Robbie, na talagang ayaw kami tantanan ng reminders. Talagay ko po yung technical glitches kanina hindi talaga maiwasan. So, sagutin nyo na po yung post-event survey para next week, kasama naman kayong muli sa Dagyao Usapang Trabaho. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Stay safe and healthy and happy. Good afternoon.
Sa gitna ng mga hamong dala ng pandemya ng COVID-19, lalong higit na mahalaga ang pakikipagtulungan at pakikipag-ugnayan sa pagitan ng gobyerno at ng ating mga mamamayan. Kung kaya't sa pangunguna ng Department of Interior and Local Government, Presidential Communications Operations Office, Department of Budget and Management, kasama ang Caucus of Development Network NGOs at Right to Know, Right Now Coalition. Muling inilulunsad ng Participatory Governance Cluster of the Cabinet ang Dagyao 2020 Open Government Virtual Town Hall Sessions. Isang salitang hiligay noon ang Dagyao na ang ibig sabihin ay bayanihan. Ang Dagyao 2020 Virtual Town Hall Sessions ay serye ng mga dialogo sa pagitan ng pamahalaan at ng mga mamayang Pilipino tungkol sa mga importanteng isyung panlipunan. At sa aming naunang pagkonsulta sa sambayanan, maraming katanungan ang aming natanggap.
Pasokan na naman, paano po kaya ako makakasiguro na ligtas at maganda pa rin ang kalidad ng edukasyon ng aking mga anak sa ilalim ng distance and blended learning program ng kanilang school?
When will our islands be open for domestic tourism and international tourism?
Para sa aming mga uuwing OFW, ano-ano po ba ang mga trabaho na nag-aantay sa amin sa Pilipinas? May mga programa po ba ang gobyerno para sa amin?
Kamusta naman po yung ayuda ng pamahalaan para sa aming mahihirap? Ganon din po sa mga empleyado at sa mga kumpanya at sa iba pa pong grupo na naapektuhan ng pandemya.
Ano po ba ang national ID at administrasyong hatid dito sa amin?
Sa panahon ng ating kalituhan at mga agam-agam sa gitna ng COVID-19 pandemic, ating sasagutin ang inyong mga katanungan. Layunin ng Dagyao 2020 Virtual Town Hall Sessions na magsilbing gabay sa karamihan patungkol sa mga plano, polisiya, programa at solusyon ng pamahalaan upang matugunan ang mga hamong ating kinakaharap.
Sa Dagyao, malayang makikipag-usap ang ating mga mamamayan sa mga eksperto mula sa pamahalaan at iba pang sektor ng lipunan. Ating payayabungin ang ating tiwala sa gobyerno at sa isa't isa. At pag-uusayan pa natin ang paghahatid ng serbisyo publiko gamit ang makabuluhang talakayan.
Sa pamagitan ng Dagyao, ating bibigyan linaw ang mga isyong mahalaga sa taong bayan. Susuriin natin kasama ng sambayanan ang mga pangunahing programa ng pamahalaan. Sisiguraduhin natin na ang gobyerno ay nakikinig at inaaksyonan ang mga hinaing at mga isyong mahalaga sa ating mga komunidad.
Halika, ikaw, maging marunong, maging aktibong Pilipino. Ikaw ay aming inaanyayahang magtanong, makialam at makilahok.
Kami ay kasama ninyo. Bukas, gumagabay, nakikinig, tumatalima, binibigyang halaga ang boses ng bawat Pilipino.
Nandirito po ang inyong gobyerno. Ito po ang mensaheng hatid ng Dagyao 2020 Open Government Virtual Town Hall Sessions.